Hi, and welcome to this live reading from the Myder Bird Tattoo by Julia Colbourn, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1 In the Palace, Elfern. They mate for life, you know. My cousin Donnerson is standing behind me plaiting my hair, but I don't need to ask her whom she means. I cast a surreptitious glance at our Cadian maid, who has come in to clear away our lunch plates. Donnerson is obsessed with the Cadians, always telling me some odd fact or other about them. Their strange sports and stranger domestic arrangements, their love of singing. It is a mystery to me where she gets all her information from. The Cadians are different to us in many ways, some so obvious that it is hard to believe we are the same species. They are shorter than us, even most of the males, but they are more powerfully built. We seem positively sylph-like compared to them. The women need their broad shoulders to carry their pendulous breasts. If we had breasts that big, we would fall flat on our faces every time we stood up. It does mean they make terrific wet nurses, though, which is useful as that's not something Elysians like to do. I'm not even sure we can. The maid turns her head. She doesn't look at us because to make eye contact with royalty is forbidden, but I think she's tilting her head to try and pick up what we are saying. She's guessed that we are speaking about her. Everyone seems a bit on edge these days. Wary. Trying to tune in to our conversation has made her miss her footing. She stumbles and the plate she is holding goes flying. "Ananine!" Donnerson shouts. It's hard to tell if she's cross or concerned. All the maids are called Anna and then a number. It's easier than trying to remember their names. Donnerson drops the plate she is working on, and we both move towards the maid, though quite what help we could offer is dubious. Assess the damage and then call for help, I suppose. Fortunately, she is unharmed and struggles to her feet, retrieving her soft deerskin mule from under the chair. Donnerson and I exchange an astonished look. Did I just see... Ananine busies herself picking up the bits of broken china and scuttles off, apologizing, and we return to our task. She's lucky it was just us in here. "Did you see?" hisses Donnerson as soon as she exits the room. I try and nod, but my cousin has already resumed her vice-like grip on my hair. Weird. Do you think they all have 6 toes? 6 toes and hair on her legs. I know the men... What? Have hairy arms. I'm sure that was not what Donnerson was going to say. Even I've seen hair on the arms of both male and female Cadians, and if I know something, then it's no great secret. Our bodies are completely hairless, apart from the very fine, translucent hair that grows on our heads. And they worship Mother Earth. They call her Jima. Yes, I know that. I don't know much, but I do know that. Donnerson's trying to distract me. She has distraction down to a fine art, and I am easily distracted. And they believe in Molochs, little demons, I add for good measure. My lovely Cadian maid, Anna Ford, told me all about those. I miss her. We don't worship anything, though I once heard my 2 aunts talking about spirits inside of ourselves. That stayed with me because they seemed so secretive. One thing we value is the Trinity, the 3 cornerstones of strength, bravery, and determination, though I don't think any of us understand why those qualities are valued above others. I have none of them. I'm sure I heard something different when I was younger, but my mind fogs when I try and recall quite what. I suppose we all have strength. Not physical strength like the Cadians do, for our bodies are weak, but we do have the negaforce. Many a time, Donnerson and I have discussed what life would be like if we didn't have the negaforce. It is really the only thing that gives us an advantage over the Cadians and keeps them in line. I don't like using it, but Mother gets cross and says I need to practice, that I never know when I might need it. I think she's worried about the kidnappings. I used to discuss the kidnappings with Donnerson, but she started to get all funny about it, saying that I shouldn't judge what I don't understand, and it is really our fault. I don't see how that can be. If it wasn't for us, the Cadians would starve. We let them work for our lands, and we give them a percentage of the produce. It works. It's worked for hundreds of years, and I can't see why anyone would want to upset that balance. I'm mulling over what Donnerson said. What does that mean? Mate for life? Mating is for life, to create the next generation. They think there's more to it than just the act. They don't even call it mating. They call it coupling. To them, coupling with someone means they are bound to that person forever. But if you only have one person to mate with, that weakens the line, doesn't it? All the children will come out the same. I thought of my two sisters. All three of us were from different donors, and we couldn't be more different. That's good, isn't it? Of course, there are only two of us left now, me and Heldance. I think there's more to the coupling than just passing on the life code. I don't see how there can be anything more. What makes you think there is? Mother is always saying that Donnerson has an overactive imagination, and I think she's probably right. I've seen them together, a bonded couple. Not coupling, of course, just being together. They touch each other on the face, on the arms, with their fingers and even their lips, like this. She grabs my arm and presses her lips to my skin in little quick movements, tracing a line from my wrist upward. I pull away, shocked. Even Donnerson plaiting my hair is not really allowed, and skin-to-skin contact like this is strictly forbidden. The rule is to keep at least 2 strides from any other Elysian. That's why the Cadian wet nurses take the babies as soon as they are born, so we don't have contact with them. That's gross. Why would anyone do that? Donnerson giggles and then says wistfully, I can't do it right. Maybe their skin isn't as sensitive as ours. Their skin is rougher than ours, more leathery in every shade of warmth there is, from muted red through all the variations of brown and ochre seen in nature, to the soft yellow of the sunrise plant. I've seen darkish green hues, grays like unpolished metals, and deep, deep charcoal, whereas ours is almost colorless. You must admit there's something missing from our culture. What things? I don't know. It's hard to describe. They just have this sort of connection, a bond. I frown. I can't see what she's meaning, and from the uncertainty in her voice, I don't think she knows either. What do you mean by a bond? How can 2 people be bound together? They can't go around in pairs all the time. That would just be silly. Don't be so dense. I bridle at that. Everyone thinks I'm stupid, but it's not that. It's that nothing ever gets explained to me. You don't see the maids going around with their bonded mates, do you? I think about this. To be honest, it is the first time I've ever thought about the maids outside of the walls of the palace. I just assumed they had quarters somewhere in the grounds, not bonded mates to go home to. I suppose I thought they were like us, not needing men. Of course, I don't say any of this out loud because I know Donnerson would laugh at me. For someone who professes to champion the downtrodden, she does an awful lot of sneering. I like Donnerson. Really, I do. She's the only friend I've got in here, and she can be so funny, and she knows so much, even though she's younger than me, but I'm a bit wary of her, of revealing how little I understand. I'm supposed to be her superior, but I don't feel that way in the knowledge department. Well, not anywhere else, really. And some of the things she says, well, if Mother heard her, she'd accuse her of treasonable thoughts. Of course, half the things she says for effect, I'm sure, to shock me. She can't possibly know all that stuff. She must just eavesdrop on the maids and pick it up. Well, of course she wouldn't see their bondsmen in here, I reply, wanting to toss my head authoritatively as I say it, but unable to move because of Donnerson's tight grip on my hair. It sort of sums up how I feel, really, that someone's always got a tight grip on my life, controlling every movement. Cadian males are not allowed inside the palace unless they've been arrested and put into the detention rooms. No males are, not even Elysian males, except those on guard duty. There are the babies in the nurseries, but we never see or hear anything of them, and as soon as they can walk and talk, they go to the Ephems. When they are prepubescents, they go to the training schools and become brethren soldiers. It's a weird thought that some of the brethren are my brothers. Of course, we don't use that term. That implies they are part of our family, which they are not. Only the females form the true family. But still, it's strange to think that Mother actually gave birth to some of them. One of them was in the womb with me. I once heard Mother talking to Donnerson's mother, saying that she wondered if I'd have been stronger if I'd been a single birth. Donnerson says nothing, but I know, even without looking at her, that she is smiling. Her body did a funny little wiggle that traveled into her hands, and I felt it. She's always doing that, smiling secretly. She's always doing that, smiling secretly. She's only pretending to have secrets, so I make a point not to quiz her. That's what she wants me to do, but I don't fall for it. I'm not that silly. If you could do anything with your life, what would you do? That's another thing she does, controls the conversation. So she leads you down one line of thought and then abruptly changes tack, as if she's trying to disorder your thoughts and get you to blurt out something you don't mean. That's not even worth considering. My path is already mapped out. What about if you become queen? If you have a girl before Hell Dance, you would. What sort of queen would you be? What changes would you make? This sort of talk makes me go quite cold and numb, as if the power of thought had been sucked out of me. I suppose it's fear. I really don't want to be queen. I really, really don't want to be queen. The thought terrifies me. Mother makes it look so easy, but I just know I would make blunder after blunder. I think Donnerson guesses, but I've never told her how I really feel, and now she is making it worse by making me think I could choose how to rule. It would take all of my willpower just to tell people to carry on as normal, with any sort of authority. In the very dark spaces of my mind, I know I'd probably end up just doing whatever Mother and Hell Dance tell me to do. She takes my silence as a challenge. Come on, you must think about it. There must be some thoughts going on in there. With that, she taps my head lightly with her knuckle. She said that sort of thing before. She doesn't realize how much it panics me to think. I use the FM's calming techniques that they have taught me to keep my head empty. It helps, but the panic is still there at the edges. And Donnerson is always prodding the edges. That's for me to know. I try to say it with a haughty air of authority, but I don't think Donnerson falls for it. I try another tactic, turning the question back onto Donnerson. Her head is usually full of thoughts, and she's usually bursting to share them. Perhaps she could give me some ideas. What would you do if you became queen? But today is not one of her voluble days. The last week or so she's been quieter than normal, moody and distant. Well, that's never going to happen, she says it so snappily that I daren't quiz her further. It is becoming an increasingly likely outcome, and she must know that, must have thought about becoming queen. Maybe she has thought about it a lot and doesn't want me to realize that. How would I feel if Donnerson became queen and then I ranked lower than her? That's how it feels now anyhow, and you would think I would welcome that outcome, that escape, but I don't. Maybe it is the thought of living forever with Mother's disappointment that I had thwarted her chances of being Queen Mother. Or maybe it is something else. The FMs say that you have a lot of things buried inside you that you haven't yet tapped into. Hidden thoughts that you have never confronted. Hidden paths that you have not had the courage to examine yet. Hidden strengths that you are unaware of. They ask me sometimes if I want them to help me explore what's inside, but I always refuse. I like their meditation and relaxation techniques. They're enough for me. Enough to keep the panic at the edges. I suddenly wonder if she knows somehow that Hell Dance is going to have a boy again, and I am just about to gently probe when she beat me to it, yet again. Do you think you're pregnant this cycle? No. I bite my lip as soon as I say it. I should have been vaguer. Don't tell me you've started your period already. You and I are always in sync, and I'm not due for another 10 days. I just don't think I am. I sounded lame even to my ears, but I wasn't going to tell her about the peculiar events of the last impregnation attempt. We use artificial insemination techniques, of course. We have an abhorrence of physical contact even with our female relatives, let alone an unrelated male. Even Donnerson plaiting my hair would rouse comments from my mother, but I quite like it even if she tugs sometimes. It makes me feel that I'm solid, that I have some substance to me, not just some amorphous spirit wandering the palace. You don't start the insemination program until you're 20. As it is thought, our slender frames can't cope well with childbirth before that. Of course, my Aunt Genera, who is in charge of the program, makes the whole experience as bearable as possible. The room is darkened, lit only by scented candles, and she rarely speaks, so I can pretend I'm elsewhere. It's a technique that Valletta taught me. He is one of the FMs, my favorite one. You have to retreat into your mind and disassociate yourself from your body. Then you can be anywhere you want. I like to be dozing in a hammock, in the almond tree orchards with Valletta sitting beside me, painting and humming. I say he because their gender is not fixed like ours and the Acadians. They are hermaphrodites and drift between a feminine expression of themselves to a masculine one in a matter of minutes, depending on which version of themselves they feel like presenting. Some people find that unsettling, and it is a bit disorienting, but I'm so used to them now that I hardly even notice. There are so few of us female Elysians, only about 30 of childbearing age, that if we don't boost our numbers soon, we are in danger of becoming extinct. Being of royal lineage puts even more pressure on me to carry on the line. But after 12 monthly sessions, My mother has begun using the B word. Not to my face, but I overheard her raise the possibility that I was barren with my aunt. My sister, Helldance, has gone through 3 pregnancies already and is pregnant with her 4th. She is 26, older than me by 5 years, and hasn't yet produced a girl child. Only useless boys that have been sent away to the Ephems, but at least she is fertile. So every month I am summoned to the insemination rooms. I understand that it is an unpleasant but necessary ritual, and then afterwards there are always the truffles to compensate, a little box left outside of my room a day or 2 afterward. I love truffles, and the box they come in is also made with care, woven straw in pretty shades of pink and fuchsia. I've kept them all, 12 of them now. At first, I assumed it was my Aunt Janura who put them there as a small token of thanks for my cooperation. But I tried to thank her one day, and she seemed to think I was delusional. It's most certainly not my mother. I asked my maid Anna for her, and she told me it was nothing to do with her. It can't be Donnerson. She would never make a gesture like that and not take the credit. And I'm not talking to her about them. She loves a mystery and would latch onto something like this and spin all sorts of speculative fantasies about it. There's no one else, no one who knows my movements and who might spare a thought for me.